South African marriage laws have been fraught with inequalities and unfair discrimination, especially in relation to gender, sexual orientation, culture, and religion. This has an impact on families and couples, and therefore it's important that people understand the law as it relates to marriage. In today's episode of Gender Space, we will discuss the marriage bill that is set to become law in South Africa. The Commission for Gender Equality has an important role to play in the laws of the country that impact on gender rights and gender equality. Welcome to this important episode of Gender Space as we discuss types of marriages. Let's Gender Space, and today's focus is on the law that governs marriages and the changes we can expect. Kikhumuditswe Mire, Lenothemba Sonjika are legal officers from the Commission for Gender Equality who are here to help us understand the 2022 marriage bill and the general law that relates to types of marriages. Remember, you can have your say on our social platforms. Kena hu YouTube at Commission for Gender Equality, hu Facebook ki Commission for Gender Equality. Kanti Instagram ki CGE Live, hu X ki at CGE_ZA. Rumela email hu info@cge.org.za. Kanti website at Sorandi Tabakaofela ki www.cge.org.za. Ladies, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having us.
Whew, it's so good to have you to discuss this very important topic. Please tell us about the current legislative environment regarding marriage in South Africa.
I'll just maybe not necessarily narrow to legislation, maar re tlo bua ka manyalo a fapaneng in South Africa. So in South Africa, we have your marriage in community of property, and I'll use a very lay phrase for it. Literally everything I own is yours, and everything the other person owns belongs to the other spouse. Then we have another marital regime called you are married but out of community of property with an accrual. That basically means that we are married, but anything we're going to share at the we can only share it after marriage. So they start accumulating after marriage.
Okay.
And the spouse that has got more, the estate gets the difference of that. So it's not automatically 50-50.
Okay.
Yes. Then we have your married out of community of property without an accrual. That means omolomo o tla ka sa tseneng ka sone ha lenyalo le fela omolomo o tsamaya ka eseng sa gagwe.
At what point? Regime is important.
Yes.
At what point do I make the choice which regime?
It's important to make it before lobola. It's advisable in law. Because remember, our customary marriage also takes seemo sa community of property. So but why make the mistake ya hore ba tsemagadi be ba nna mmogo. Remember now that creates a customary marriage if anything were to happen to either person. So yanong halatla la feleletsa go etsa to enter into a contract or anything like that, la lo signa go home affairs. So ha sa fitlo go staging seo motho ba tlhokofala re ntshitse magadi, it can be deemed in
as
the court of law as nelenyalane, and then in na 50-50. So we had in most cases it's advisable gore before le ntsha magadi le choosing the marital regime. Ha ile go batla out of community le signing and tumelano ya teng le lo register ko deeds office.
I don't think we think about the type of marriage we are getting into except ke a nyalwa.
Yes.
Kapa ke a nyala. And then hu tla hore ha o nyalwa automatically o kopanetse dithoto whether o buile ka yona or not. Ke ntho e kgolo. Now, what changes does the marriage bill introduce to the already existing marriage laws?
Okay. I-marriage bill wena twasa iyadibanisa yonke imithetho ekhoyo with regards to marriage. If siyayazi kukhona most customary marriage, bekhona civil union marriages, bekhona ne marriages that were governed by the Black Administration Act. So it basically consolidates everything into one law. Also i-age yokuba umuntu angatshada ngoku i-marriage bill ithi funeka umuntu abe na 18 ukuze atshate. So those are the changes eziziswa yi-marriage bill. Those are the positive changes.
Hey, Nothemba, taba tsena di batla ke tle tabeng ena mo ke batlang ho utlwisisa hantle hore Commission for Gender Equality e bona di-developments tsena di le positive in relation to gender equality na. Haholo di-changes tse tlang ho matrimonial law. Le bona di le positive.
If I can answer that, i-Commission for Gender Equality ithe xa ijonga i-bill yafumana uba iyasilela when it comes to gender sensitive terminology, yabo. Igxininise kuba husband, yabo, ayitsho uba husband ngokwesini, igxininise ku-head of the family. So it's very much patriarchal still. So zinto i-Commission for Gender Equality has noticed kulaa bill and the shortfalls thereof. Also in terms of polygamous marriages, it also doesn't mention anything about polyandry, which is also discriminative in its sense, yabo. Iphinde bene challenges ba okay, umntu xa entarisha into a polygamous marriage funeka ahambe ayoregistarisha i-contract in terms of i-property yakhe izodistributwa njani, yabo, which is costly for abantu abasezilalini, yabo. Umuntu uzofuna utshata isithembu funeka aqala ecourt ayoregistarisha umtshato wakhe, atsho ukuthi umfazi wami oqala funeka afumane le, yabo. So these shortfalls or zii-gaps esizibonileyo ezo in terms of the act.
Ako hlalo se polyandry he ngwaneso ubani jwale o qeta o bua ka polygamy ke kgola yeno e batla e tlwaelehile hore re ka bua ka yona. Polyandry ke efe?
I-polyandry ngathi yi-opposite ye-polygamy, yabo. Ku-polygamy umuntu ongutata uyakwazi utshata abafazi abaninzi, ne, mhlawumbi 4 if uyafuna noba bangaphi. But kwi-polyandry umuntu wesifazane naye funeka anikwe the exact same rights, akwazi utshata abayeni ababini okanye abathathu, xhomekeke kuye.
Oh.
So i-act iyasilela into with regards to that.
Now, what role did the CGE play in these developments around the marriage bill?
Sithe xa sijonga i-marriage bill, ne, sayidiscussa, sa-identifya i-gaps, senza i-submissions to i-parliament ba okay, sijongile i-bill, zezinto into esizibone ezisendizichazile uba ayikho gender sensitive in terms of language, in terms of polygamous and polyandry marriages. So we identified all the shortfalls or the gaps within the bill.
Ay, ihlakile, mamela. You can lodge a legal complaint with the CGE by calling this hotline 0800 007709, or you can send your complaint by email ho agendaenquiries@cge.org.za. Taba yena ha o batle o fete. We will continue with this discussion after this short break. Titi ote. We continue our discussion on a very important topic of marriage and how the law governs it. This episode of Gender Space is relevant to many people who are in marriages and those who plan to get married. Remember to go on our socials and have your say. On YouTube, we are at Commission for Gender Equality. On X, we are at CGE_ZA. Facebook, we are Commission for Gender Equality. On Instagram, at CGE Live. On email, you can send your emails to info@cge.org.za. And the website is www.cge.org.za. Marriage impacts on other things, such as inheritance and succession, especially in cultural areas or traditional areas. What are some of the challenges that you have seen, Nothemba, as you go around the country?
Izikhalazo ezininzi esizifumanayo kuxa mhlambi umuntu eswelekelwe ngumyeni okanye eswelekelwe ngumfazi okanye xa kufuneka kuhlukaniswe umtshato. Sifumana i-complaints where widows complain to us because they are experiencing abuse from in-laws. Sometimes kuzube imitshato ingaregistershwanga. So ingxaki yokuqala is that they must prove ba indeed balotyolwe bachata. So iqalela apho ifamily zithi asikurecognize umfazi, for instance, anitshatanga. So zii-problems esizifumanayo ezi, ngaphandle kwaloo iba yi-abuse ne-victimization of i-widows. Those are the type of complaints we received in relation to succession.
Hle re hona tabeng eno ya customary versus civil marriages. how do we differentiate between the two? And haholo tabeng eno ya bomme a tla ba setse hae a nyetswe, she's married, the migrant worker husband is in somewhere in another province, he's married there as well, and ha hlokahala there's a problem. Please explain the difference between these two marriages and which one takes precedence. How sona le bothata?
Okay. Umahluko phakathi kwale mitshato ne is that in terms of the civil marriages, it's mostly solemnized, in front of an official or religiously ecaweni. And then ke ngoku with the issue ke ngoku yoba which one takes preference. And kwazi mna as umyeni ne ndithathe umfazi ndimtshate in terms of civil marriages ne. Then after that ndiphinde ndiyothatha omnye in terms of customary law. Which means the second marriage is invalid. It goes all the other way around as well. Angikwazi uthatha umfazi ngokwesinto okanye in terms of customary law ndimshiye ezilalini mhlawumbe ndize eGoli ndizotshata omnye umfazi siyobhalisa umtshato as a civil marriage. That marriage is invalid.
Sure. Ke batla fela ho tla mono ha ke nyetswe ka setso, have I already consented to a polygamous marriage?
Okay, yenye ye issues marriage bill seeks to address the issue of consent. Let's say as a first wife we are chat with umuntu ofuna uchata isithembu. Marriage bill ithi the first wife must consent.
Hey, ya rasha lefa kajeno le.
And just to tlattelet, and if you do take a second wife, all of them must consent. Because when an application is made in court, all the interested parties consider. So in that application, so you can't just say because your first wife, she's the only one that's got to say. All of them that follow. The fifth one, all other four before the fifth one must also be part of that consent.
Hey, mathata basadi bana ba kopanang le ona haholo bana ba nyetsweng ka setso ho ya ka botjhaba ba rona hantlentle ke mathata jwang mme bill e kapa sehlomathiso sena sa molao se tlo rarolla mathata o jwang?
Mathata a mangata ba kenang ka one is ho ke ka lefa ha ntata ka hlokofala. In most cases there's always an issue ya gore ke mang a tsayang eng ke mang a etsang eng. So one of the positive effects of the bill, the marriage bill, is that before we get into that customary marriage, that agreement in November that it is expensive. You still have to elaborate more on it. Ha ke tsa khumi, ke tsa thwasa, ke tsa November. Go fa o eng, so that there isn't dingangisano about who's getting what and who's not getting what. So that agreement is there for that reason. So that's the positive effects compared to Khonano, because Khonano lefa la lwantshiwa.
Tell us about the ruling in the matters, Agnes Sithole and others. What were the challenges and how did it go and what does that mean?
Okay. More judgment in Sithole, it's one of the landmark cases. Hakere landmark case in more Africa Borwa. So in the Agnes case, what happened was that black couples were not given the same advantage as other race couples. So now we were automatically married out of community of property. So you can imagine how mona hlokofala also out of community of property. You can imagine how our divorce. So you were not given a choice as opposed to other race marriages. So the case law was meant to nullify and to give everyone a choice. So it dealt with issues of race, it dealt with issues of gender as well in that aspect, to say, ha ke batla community of property, I should be given the advantage as a black wife.
Ha re bue ke batla ho khutlela ho yena ya polygamy kapa o itse ke
polyandry.
That's khwa bosimo. Ke batla ho khutlela mono. Ha re nyala ke re hwane, we are marrying in community of property, 50-50, so we say. What is mine is yours and what is yours is mine. Hanga mosadi wa bobedi. Jwale thuto tsa ka ho etsahalang ka tsona nna ke le mosadi a moholo. Ke a consent or ka nyala mosadi wa bobedi. What happens to the split of ownership ya estate enana. Ha nka mosadi wa boraro, yo wa boraro o tholang, wa bone wa bohlano, what happens to our assets?
Those are some of the gaps the marriage bill seeks to address, which is why there's emphasis on an agreement that has to be done with regards to the matrimonial property in respect of polygamous marriages. So there must be an agreement in terms of how the estate will be divided in the case of the polygamous head being deceased.
Or high automatic?
Automatic. There must be an agreement. Yes.
I know. Mame. Ha ebe nyaneng o na le ditaba tse o lakatsang ho di theola mona moratuwa, maybe you have concerns about whatever in relation to ditaba tsa manyalo, ska ba wa fetwa hobane re tlo kena ho tsona, tlo fa lesedi la hore na o ka ya kae wa lela kae mme wa utlwahala. Ha jwale we are taking a break, but we are continuing on the subject after this. A re kopane. You're tuned into Gender Space, the show where we discuss issues that relate to gender equality. And today, our focus is on the marriage bill and its impact on marriage laws in South Africa. Ke ntse ke na le baitebaka ba babedi kajeno. Ha re bueng hle wena Nothemba le ke khomoditswe. Ke batla ho utlwisisa, what sort of complaints has the CGE received in relation to matrimonial matters?
Bengike ndatsho that sifumana izikhalazo ezininzi from widows ne xa sekusoloke abayini. Also we sifumane ne complaints regarding discrimination okanye the division of a joint estate ne. Sometimes it relates to ukungabhaliswa komtshato ne. People saying now I have to prove uba benditshadile nalo mntu, the family of the husband is refusing to give me affidavits. Yeah, but because you have to prove that you were indeed married. So you have to get affidavits from both sides of the family. So akafumani affidavits from the other side to prove that they were indeed married. Also kukhona issues about usolekile ke ngokumyeni, umfazi ufuna ungcwaba, for instance, ifamily yamlwisa uba uzongcwatywa phi lo mntu. So kube lapho ke ngoku ifamily ithi ayisirecognize zi-complaints ezinjalo esizifumanayo.
Sure. Ha re utlwe ke khomoditswe, CGE e eletsa setjhaba ka lefe when it comes to this bill being signed into law?
CGE eletsa batho hore akere the bill on its own says it must be registered. You know, the legal duty ke ya gago. So from a CGE stance is that it's very important to register the marital regime to avoid situations there in Nothemba Aditlalosan that at a later stage it's going to be costly now to go prove something that you could have done it 75 rand or, and I'm speaking out of by correction, go home affairs.
Yeah.
Do you understand? If it's not going to cost you that much from the beginning, it's advisable to be compliant with the law and not wait to use the law in a reactive sense. You know,
Also na le mathata. Ke batla ho tla mo he bana beso re a ratana lefatshe mona. Re a kopana mona re a ratana. Se ke dutse le wena 6 months. Ka mora 6 months ke re mara re nyalane man. We are as good as married. That has been trending haholo di social media platforms hore ha ke dutse le wena jwale 3 years ke mo be o feta. 3 years frigi ke aka di sofa ke tsamang ho ba le mathata. Does the law recognize cohabitating as lenyalo by virtue of redutsi together for how long?
Currently akekho umthetho ne ogovernisha cohabitation. Abantu abaninzi bathatha ingxaki zabo bazise ecourt, ibe icourt egqibayo ba okay kudala uhleli nalo mntu, so lo mntu ufuneka benefit ku estate yakho. But that is one of the shortcomings we have identified as the CGE. Currently, there is no specific law that deals with cohabitation. It's the court that make rulings with regards to cohabitation and whether one can benefit from the estate. So that is the gap that we need to address.
And it's very important for people to know that the court high automatic that how if you go court, they will declare the fact that you're married, you know, you're married. Apologies. The court there's a term reciprocal duty. in the traditional sense that onodlala the role tsa monna inside, when onodlala tsa mosadi.
Yeah.
You understand? So court looks into all those different factors inside. So I see a situation like ya court se ke tloti ke mosadi wa motho.
Yeah.
You know, you might go and then the court doesn't see the reciprocal duty or what very sad news.
Itswele ka setulo sa hao kapa ka seo tlitafuru tuku ngwaneso o itswele ka yona. So every case is shejwa ho ya ka its own merit.
Yes.
Jwalo ka ha le eletswe. Ha re bue Nothemba, can you, if you were to advise a person that is sitting at home thinking about getting married and the importance of being educated, where should they start?
Mna ningathi kubalulekile uthetha nepartner yakho lo uzotshata nayo. Niqale nivumelane whether nichata in or out. And then umase ni decidile ni approach someone for legal advice. Kukhona no legal aid ke for free legal advice. Ninga advise wa apho. Ni cetshiswe ke ngokuba okay, njengoba nithathe le decision, this is what will happen should one of you die or should you guys get divorced. So kubalulekile udiscussa which marriage regime you want to fall under. And also the issue of registration is an issue. Like me and my colleague have said, mase kufike isikhathi ukuba ni divorce nomyeni wakho ningabe umtshato wenu ungekho registered iba ingxaki. Ma kusekufika ixesha ukuba umyeni wakho okanye umfazi wakho uswelekile umtshato awuregisterishanga yabo. So iba ingxaki nalapho. So I would say registration is important, which is one of the issues marriage bill seeks to address.
Ena ka nnete ke botsetsa Muhi lapeng. What are some of the mistakes that we make that we need to be aware of and just remedy?
Okay, kusikhalazo sakho, you must be very specific in terms of the relief you're seeking or the outcome you are seeking. So, njengoba besicacisile, if you're seeking monetary relief, Tina, as the CGE, we are limited in the manner in which we can assist you. We also can't declare whether umtshato is valid or not. Yabo? So you need to approach the court and an attorney for that. So you must be very specific in terms of the relief we're seeking, so we can assess whether singakwazi ukunceda na.
Fela go tlatseletsa.
Eh, Amrata.
O e tlatsele ka botlalo. You know, sometimes we get motho ha kenya ID, ha kenya address, you know, even the nature of the complaint. Ha ba tlhalosa gore what is the nature, and then it's very difficult for us to assess whether it's gender related or not. You know, and then kana kung o batlana le motho ha tsia phone number.
Eish.
You know, and ha ke tlhaloganye le complaint ya. So I na le ability wa nga phone la ko botse. O no ga yang when you said 1 2 3 4 5 for purposes of our assessment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ihlakile ke lebohile. Mamela, you can lodge a legal complaint with the CGE ka ho letsetsa nomoro ena ya mahala 0800 00 7709 kapa o ka romella tletlebo ya hao ka email ho genderenquiries@cge.org.za. Hai, nako ya rona e fella mona. Re tla boela re di tshwara hape beke e tlang o ska ba fetwa. Please join us again next week. And o ka tla mona di socialeng tsa rona hle re batla ho utlwa maikutlo a hao. Kena ho YouTube Commission for Gender Equality, ho X @CGE_ZA, Facebook Commission for Gender Equality, Instagram @CGE Live. Ganti email ki info@cge.org.za. Kena websiting www.cge.org.za. You've been watching Gender Space on Dumisa TV, channel 340. Take care.